here. He knew he was going to surprise him. Get a paper.
That's the way it goes. Yeah, she's coming through here.
Wade through this myself without that.
We'll be all right.
Because it says, and he didn't call today too. There's no action needed of these, there's no motions that we need to
I walked in to see it, and I said, oh, no, I'm not doing this.
revise it, that's not necessary, and also for the budget mod for the grants received, strictly recorded. So there's, so we don't have to move to accept that. We already ordered. Yeah. Well, it was my understanding.
Yeah, you get several.
Be sure.
She's a peasant, so I told her. Every morning.
Hey, we're actually right now, I just put in the, in the SBC, and as soon as they come out, our bank should give it to us. All right, yeah, come on. Okay, I'll see you.
I don't have time. I can't remember.
I'm ready.
Is that one you just made up? My name's on that one. You still want to do it? I said I talked to you after this meeting. Yeah, I said. Oh.
You got your meeting, Meredith time?
Hey, Jack. In the back. Very back in the blue. That's Lisa Pivick, and she's the one that, okay. And if, when I make that
You're going to
amendment, then
to amend the
she
agenda.
wants to talk about it.
Well, we have to amend the agenda first.
I know, but if she wanted to
But we
talk
do that if we're back.
Yeah. Are you going to do it?
He's talked to the bank. Joe, I said, have him hand it out now.
Oh, I can do it.
Why don't we let him maybe down and explain? I mean, whenever we call him out, because he can tell us the difference that time. I think that's yeah, you can.
Is that what this one is? Or no? Or
This
we
is
don't
one
have
that you're
anything?
going to amend to put. Now, Mr. Perkins.
No, here.
No, Brad's going to amend.
Okay, that one.
Yeah.
Should I give you one of these? Just hand it to me. I'm gonna do this. You're gonna amend it.
We didn't get one.
So we don't change the language.
I'm coming around, man.
Oh, I got this. Sent this out over email.
Here's the top one.
This is our front systems.
Yeah, that's the assistance when we get to it.
Because we don't have any more.
No, we have these two in the report, so when we do it, we'll have to read these three into, because they came after the packet got mailed out. But I'm ready to do our, I can type these out in a little bit.
call the Executive and Finance Committee meeting to order at 3:07. By the invocation, Mr. Baker, would you give our invocation, please?
Our gracious Heavenly Father, let us thank you for this day that we can come together and do your work and guide and direct each of us to do this work in your way, and let us never forget to give you the glory and the credit. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. And next we'll have our roll call.
Jack Baker,
Here.
Carol Callen Watts,
Honey.
Bill Anglin,
Here.
Bill John Baker,
Here.
Harley Buzzard,
Here.
Julia Coates, Brad Cobb, Joe Crittenden, Jody Fishinghawk, Meredith Fraley, Janelle Fulbright, Don Garvin, Chuck Hoskin, Hannah Glory Jordan, Curtis Snell, Chris Soap, David Thornton.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Next, we have the approval of the minutes for the August 30th regular session.
So moved.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the following amendment. That on the CNI loan, it is not 50 million, but 15 million.
Okay.
So it should be 15.15 million and not 50.
Okay. Are there any other corrections or additions?
Second.
Then I have the motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have the,
Mr. Chairman, I can make an amendment to the agenda, please. Is it all possible?
okay, but we have one other minute to approve first, please. And then we'll amend that. The next is the ENF Subcommittee, the PAC Committee, that met on September the 11th. Do I hear a motion for the approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And next, Mr. Cobb.
I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda and insert a resolution authorizing the submission of a funding application to the CDC.
Second, with an amendment that we also amend the agenda for item 4, as CNE has, or CNB has different language and some bank documents to put with that item.
Okay. Do you accept his,
You accept?
Yes.
okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. So next we have our reports. The financial report from the Secretary Treasurer, Ms. Ketcher.
Good afternoon. You should have your written report, the financial statements, which are through July 31st. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them. We're gearing up for year-end. Tomorrow's the last day of the fiscal year. So, moving forward.
Are there any questions of Ms. Ketcher? Okay. I would say we do appreciate your help with the budget. All the
Thank
work
you.
did on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Ketcher. Next, Cherokee Nation Enterprises, Mr. Stewart.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just, I carry that with me just to get sympathy. So I did have surgery last week, and so anyway, hopefully another couple of months I'll be back in the saddle. Well, C&E continues to do well. August was a little soft compared to previous months with a bottom line of a little over $8 million. The company topped $100 million in net income for the first time in history, so we're proud of that.
That's good.
The budget for 2008 was approved at the last board meeting, which yielded dividends at the current rate at about $37 million to the tribe, so with net income in the $125 million range. It's aggressive, I believe, given the what I would consider somewhat of a flat market without growing much, except maybe in West Siloam with a few more games, and then maybe Fort Gibson with a few more games. The real growth will happen in 2009 when we open the new facilities and finish the construction. Construction projects are moving along. If you've driven by West Siloam, it's a little bit different. All the pile of dirt's gone finally, so a little more presentable. We are seeing some decline in business because it's hard to get to, and all of the construction is requiring our customers to go around the back for a short period of time. But eventually, we'll get it all completed and we'll be back to where they can get there a little better. Report pretty much speaks for itself. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have about operations for August.
Are there any questions, Mr. Stewart? Okay. Thanks very much.
Okay,
I appreciate it. Next is Cherokee Nation Industries, Mr. McLemore.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The report that was sent was for the end of July. We're working on our extended year. Our year will also end this the end of this week, and they'll be doing an inventory over at the industries on Saturday. The 13-month year to date, with $120 million in sales, and the income for the 13-month period is around $2 million. Balance sheet at the end of July, we had $11,300,000 in cash, $11.5 million in receivables, net inventory of $9.2 million, and payables of $10.2 million. The debt payable to ADC on the old inventory was $472,000, and we had a debt to CMB for $13.3 million. The $15 million that we received, we do what's called a borrowing base, just like we did with the bank, where if our collateral goes down, then we repay some of that back, but we can always draw that back as our inventories increase, our receivables increase. We can draw up against that $15 million again. But during at the end of July, we paid that back down to $13.3 million. Net worth at the end of July was $10.5 million. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Are there any questions of Mr. McLemore? Okay. Yes, Mr. Baker.
When are they going to gift that $15 million so that you don't keep buying down?
I believe that is based upon once we get all the approvals from the SBA to let all that stuff roll under Cherokee Nation, and then we also have this lawsuit that once that gets settled, then I believe that's when they plan to make that a capital infusion.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Thanks very much, Mr. McLemore.
Thank you.
Next, the Cherokee National Historical Society, Ms. Moore.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sorry Mr. Tilley couldn't be with you. He's training in Tulsa today. So I'm elected to come give you the good news. We had a wonderful summer. So far this year, over 27,000 people have visited the Cherokee Heritage Center. That's representing all 50 states and 65 countries. So we're getting our heritage out there. Our July and August were so good that we were able to pay over $104,000 down on the debt. And in August, we completely paid off the Bank of America loan. We're down to one loan. I know, I'm so excited. That's my highlight. But we did pay down 63.9% of the debt in 2007. So we're making strong moves with that. Current revenues are up. Our admission scriptures and our program fees, they're up about $7,500, and that's a 106% increase over 2006. Our memberships are up $7,900, and that's a 52% increase. So we're getting more people to join the Heritage Center. And you have the July financials in your packets. Do y'all have any questions?
Are there any questions? Okay. Thanks very much, Chrissy. Next, Career Services, Diane Kelly. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Do you have any questions?
That's a report.
Yeah. Since your report is included.
Chris.
Mr. So.
Where these pins they write really.
Okay, I can probably do that. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Is it appropriate at this time to move to approve the Terra certifications?
No, it's farther down on the agenda. Yes.
I just wanted to tell Ms. Kelly I certainly appreciated the opportunity to take the tour this past week. It was real informative. That I felt like I knew quite a bit about Cherokee Nation, but I learned a lot on the tour.
Well, thank you. You can thank Gail and Ms. Price. They're the ones who were responsible for getting me to help with it, and I don't mind doing it. The chief said I could do it, so.
Yeah, I would like to comment that those who did not go missed a very good 2-day trip, and it was very educational, particularly seeing all the different sites and the different programs that are available through the Cherokee Nation. And we do appreciate your taking your time to spend those days with us.
I think she's got some more half-days planned to capture the facilities here in Cherokee County. And then I think on the 15th, when you go up for the fish fry, there is a tour planned so you can get the Mace County piece finished. One of the council members got sick on the bus going into Mackinac, so we didn't come back down, so we missed 2 pieces. Because most people were ready to see the council members, so we're going to try to capture that in conjunction with the Fish Fry and Resource Committee meeting and see some of the road projects.
And hopefully there'll be more of us.
Yeah, we'll try to finish up Adair County another day.
Okay, Mr. Busser.
Yeah, Diane, on your balance scorecard measures, I noticed on your job bank, your goal was 50. Year to date, you had 1,154.
Yeah.
Was that
Yes, that. I'll tell you what helped us with that, and that was the Mid-America Industrial Park.
Okay.
When we went up to assist Don Barber to do that job fair, we captured a whole slew of job fair applications, which we had not. We didn't really plan on getting that many, and we were just thankful that they made us part of that job fair and allowed us to go up there, because that captured, I think they had around 6,000 people come through there that day.
Yes.
On those job fairs, Diane, like Mid-America, do you track the number of Native American applicants that actually came through you or through your people over there?
What we do with the job bank, we fill it, we get the information, we fill it out, we make the referrals for some of those jobs, and a lot of times we can't get the jobs to give us information back as to whether or not those applicants either got interviewed or if they got employed. According to the employers, it's up to that employee to notify us back because of the privacy.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We do our best to try to capture that information on following up. We do have a new job developer in Sequoia County. He's working the southern counties, and that is Darrell Legg. He replaced Angela Cunningham, and he's based out of the Sallisaw office, but he works for the southern counties. He'll be working with Nettie Deckridge, and she has the northern counties. You know Nettie.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions, Ms. Kelly?
I will tell you that John Overacker started his job officially replacing Ed Bighorse Monday. He was on emergency hire and he applied for the position. He's done a really good job, and I also informed him that he's on probation, so he knows he's on probation, and he's continuing to work very hard and hasn't missed a day. And the staff are very complimentary of the work that he's done thus far. He's got a lot of work to do between now and the next 6 months. No questions?
Is that it? Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed Cherokee Nation Businesses, Mr. Carson.
Good afternoon. I can roll the bulk of my discussion into a matter that's on the agenda a bit later about the borrowing, because much of the work we've done over the last few months deals with that very issue. We have concluded budgeting season, approving operating budgets for subsidiaries, approving capital budgets for subsidiaries as well. These are obviously some important times for us. We are making lots of money through various operations, but lots of demands on our capital too. And so I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. A word about C&B. Our operating budget for fiscal year 08 is a little less than $9 million. That is 51 people providing 6 shared services as well as business development and a number of other services. Most of those are well known to people on the board. We also work, and something we don't talk a lot about, very closely with employees of the nation in trying to put into effect various programs. For example, the Sequoia Fuels land transfer and water rights there, among others. And so a lot of time on that as well. As I mentioned, a budget of nearly $9 million next year, and we spent a lot of time working on the budgeting process too. So with that, I will perhaps defer the remainder of my comments until we address the issue that's on the agenda a bit later, if that is acceptable, Mr.
Yes, it is. Are there any questions of Mr. Carson at this time for other matters? Okay, thank you. I would like to say that we really do appreciate the hospitality of all the casinos that we visited during our trip, and Cherokee Nation businesses, and also for C&I, because everyone was very hospitable, and they all fed us well. Okay. Next, Commerce. You're filling in for Ms. Knight.
I am. I'm Shay Smith. I see a lot of faces I've not seen before. So I work for Anna Knight in the Commerce Group. Each of you should have a copy of the Commerce Report, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, it was included in your report that was sent out. Are there any questions of Ms. Smith? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Next item is community assistance. And what was sent out in the packet included 2 items. One to Skytook Police Department for $1,850 from Mr. Anglin. Four Corners Helping Hands, $500 from Ms. Fraley. And then there were some additional ones. There's Friends of Fort Gibson Foundation, $500. The Trail of Tears program, that's for myself. There's Cherokee Nation Education Corporation, $4,018 for myself. For student scholarships outside the Cherokee Nation. And Westville High School, $500 from Joe Crittenden for athletic equipment. And also $500 to Debbie Sliger from Kara Cowan, the Uga Senior Citizens for freezer. Is there any? Yes.
I'd like to add the remainder of my money, the $205, to OSU ACES for the national conference.
OSU ACES.
Then the other clarification question is, if people have not expended their money, it does not carry over, correct? And this would be the last opportunity to expend such money.
Yes.
Yes,
Mr.
Do you want to do anything with Mel?
Yes, I do. There's the $1,360. I'd like to
$1,260.
$1,260. And I would like to split that with the JOM and the Gordon Drill Club in Delaware County.
Split evenly, or?
Yeah, split it evenly.
Okay. You got that? Okay. We also have Joe Crittenden, who isn't here.
Could we table this for a little bit and give him a chance to go try to call Joe right quick?
Okay. He's at the funeral.
Oh, well.
He's planning on being
He should be out by now.
Would you like to table this to the end of the meeting?
To the end of the meeting, if possible. And just let me give it.
Okay, the motion's been made that we table this until the end of the meeting to give Joe Crittenden. Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. By the way, before we move on, there is $3,875 from Ms. Fraley. Okay. Next, law enforcement request. We have none. None this month. Next, now is the Cherokee certifications, which were sent out in your packet. So is there any discussions on the...
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the Cherokee certifications? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have cemetery restoration assistance applications.
Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to amend this part. I'd like to add 2 cemeteries in Delaware County, one being Hillside Cemetery and the other is Cave Cemetery. It'll be Delaware County District 5 for $500 each.
Okay, the motion's been made to amend the agenda to include these. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so those are added for discussion. So now I will ask for approval of District 5 applications, which we have the Jeffrey Beck Cemetery, Joseph Beck Cemetery, the Hillside Cemetery, and the Cave Cemetery.
I make a motion to approve those.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next we have District 6, the Jack Ribbon Indian Cemetery. That's in Mays County. Jack Ribbon Cemetery.
Yes. Currently, the county commissioners hold the deed to this cemetery, which means Indian and non-Indian can be buried there. And they have, the community wants to restore that to an Indian community. And so they formed a volunteer board of directors to establish bylaws and form a nonprofit organization. Then they're going back to the county commissioners and request the commissioners to deed that back to this organization so that they can restrict it to Indian burial site. And part of this money, or most of this money, will go for fencing and materials to fence in this cemetery. And one of the reasons I want to do that is the county commissioners are not taking care of this cemetery the way it should be taken care of.
Okay, so you move for its approval?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next we have District 8, 2 cemeteries, Chisholm Cemetery and Spybuck Cemetery. Mr. England.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we approve the funding for Mr. Parker. He takes care of both of these cemeteries, Chisholm and Spybuck, and I wasn't able to go by and check on them.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? And all in favor of approving those 2, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just on information, did we table law enforcement or just community assistance or both?
Community assistance only.
Is it possible to revisit law enforcement for an item that I neglected to bring to the chair's attention?
Okay. Yes. I'll allow us to go back
Thank you very much.
to law enforcement.
I've lost, Mr. Chairman, what I intend to do is use the balance of the District 9 law enforcement fund for the Benita Police Department.
Okay, which is $2,338.94. Okay, so you put that in form of a motion? Yes. Is it a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Yes.
I've got a question.
Would it be all right? Can she carry over law enforcement funding?
Yes.
And doesn't that come out of different pot?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So you get that down. Okay. Okay. Okay, no old business under new business. Item 1 is discussion and possible action for funding of a cemetery assistance program employee. Do we have anyone from community development to discuss this? Ms. Ketcher.
I would request that be tabled until next month.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That is tabled. Item 2 are the road project requests. The only items on those are 3 refunds. One is the town of Spring for refund of $435, Spring road striping, $662 refund, and Port City Baptist on the bridge, $376, and there's no action required on those. Next is there any discussion on item 2? Okay, item 3 is a budget mod, and it's reporting only for the addition of grants that were received. And there's no action necessary on that. Is there any discussion on the grants? Okay. Next we have item 4, a resolution authorizing certain lending transactions involving Cherokee Nation businesses, authorizing a limited waiver of sovereign immunity. Mr. Carson.
Very good. Before us is a resolution that was distributed earlier in the week, and I have tried to talk to everyone on the council about it, or at least left messages about it. Many of you were at the CB offices earlier last week where we discussed the 3-year capital expenditure plan, and that was a slide I included in emails to everyone here. Perhaps I should talk a bit about that before discussing the particulars of the resolution before you. And what's being handed out are an amendment to the resolution that was earlier submitted. One is simply a red line version that shows the difference between the one being handed out and the one that was sent out earlier in the week. And the other one is just a clean copy of that red line version. As Mr. Stewart said, we are being quite successful in the casino business and have ambitions and indeed a track record of being increasingly successful in other non-hospitality industries. We are predicting that for fiscal year 08, that starts in just a few days, that we will have net income of in excess of $120 million. That translates, under current policy passed by this council, into a tribal council dividend of nearly $38 million. We start with a substantial cash balance, something that was discussed in the slide I presented earlier. But because of the aggressive growth, particularly of C&E, with major casino expansions at West Siloam Springs, Roland, perhaps in Fort Gibson, and also a significant expansion already underway in Catoosa, expansions that we think will have a tremendously high rate of return, there's going to be a even more significant demand on our capital expenditures than in the past. Indeed, we are predicting that for fiscal year 08, capital expenditures will be in excess of $250 million. Those, of course, are major projects which over the next 3, 4, and 5 years will wind down a bit. And C&E, I believe, will go into more of a maintenance mode as they have built up their major attractions. And the demand for capital funds will be less intense than it will be in fiscal year 08 and fiscal year 09 as we complete those. This is a rather long way of saying that while we start with substantial cash balances, we're going to need to increase our borrowing to pay for these projects as well. Projects that almost universally have rates of return in excess of 20%, many of them far higher than that. And so in terms of a business investment, they make tremendously sound sense. I believe the people who are in this body that serve on the advisory boards can talk about, as Mr. Stewart can talk about specifically, and Mr. Collins when he is here as well. A few months ago, this body passed a resolution allowing borrowing up to $75 million. And they passed with that the rights to grant a waiver of sovereign immunity to the Bank of America, which they insisted upon, and various other terms to that. What we are here today to respectfully request this body to do, something that I do at the direction of my own board and with the approval of the board of Cherokee Nation Enterprises and Cherokee Nation Industries too, is to increase that total borrowing from $75 million to $125 million. The changes you see before you in the red line version just reflect things that came from the Bank of America yesterday in a conference call, where they would like to make sure that we basically incorporate some of the language more explicitly that we're referencing the resolution passed by this council some months ago regarding the $75 million. Other than that, there are no significant changes to it. Obviously, this involves important decisions that affect the future of the Cherokee Nation. As I mentioned, we're expecting under this plan for dividends to go up to at least $52 million by fiscal year 2010 to the Tribal Council, and for net income to substantially increase too, to where it will be before long close to $200 million a year. And we will rapidly pay off this debt. As you can see from the slides I sent earlier in the week, the debt will decrease to $75 to $85 million in fiscal year 10, and the years after that quickly be paid off. The loan is on commercially reasonable terms. It is, I think, the right business decision for the enterprises to pursue. Obviously involves some important policy decisions, and it involves the need for us to come before, pursuant to the tribal constitution, for approval from the council.
Are there any discussions or any questions of Mr. Carson? Yes, Ms. Brady.
I just have a question. The sovereign immunity provisions that we passed previously are incorporated into this. No changes whatsoever.
The only change that would be involved is, where applicable, C and B would be substituted for C and B, but no other change.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Stewart.
Mr. Carson, would you agree that it would be prudent as part of any motion that we require you as this body is to watch the people's money, require you to report to us monthly on your borrowing activities for the previous month? Do you have any problem with that at all?
No, I think that is a great idea, and the best way for us to inform the people of what's happening with their money. And so I think that is a great idea, to which I would happily, at the direction of the council, make that monthly report.
That was a motion, right?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay. And this was a motion just for him to approve, to report on the debt.
Yes.
I thought it was a motion to approve with that
I'm
amendment.
okay with approving it with that amendment.
That's the way I took it.
And then if you will second that, then
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you restate it for our recording secretary, please?
Do
The
what?
motion- Restate the motion.
My motion is that we have CMB report to us on a monthly basis on the borrowing activity of the previous month. And I think that's incorporated into the overall motion of approving this increase in the...
Increasing the approval of the resolution itself. Okay. Okay. Mr. Hoskin.
Mr. Carson, it's my understanding that with the last line of credit, it was at least communicated between C&D and Bank of America, and perhaps even memorialized, that the dividend would not exceed 30%. That is the dividend back to the tribe. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And would we expect the same type of discussion or the same type of memorialization to happen in this transaction, that 30% will be spelled out as the limit?
It is one of the financial covenants that the bank demands in there. And in the previous agreement, it was one of the covenants that we were required to abide by for continued access to the credit. And in drafts of the current agreement, that is something that the bank has also included. And they would like a discussion of the dividends and the limits of that.
Is it your sense that for Bank of America that 30% is the ceiling, or that's a number that they agree to because that's the existing dividend?
I think it is fair to say, Councilman, that a number in that range is something that they would insist upon. The exact number is something that might be contemplated. We haven't really broached the subject. It was their anticipation that the language from the previous agreement would just be continued on. That is what has been discussed. I think they do see that as an important provision to that, but we haven't broached with them the notion of whether that could be a different number.
Excuse me, Mr. Hembry would like to make a comment on this.
Yes, it's my understanding that in the previous transaction that the dividends or the bank covenants would not, or the dividends would not exceed those dividends authorized in the specific legislative act, which number escapes me, which would set the ceiling at 30%, but however allow Cherokee Nation industry to give special dividends, which they have at certain intervals throughout the year. I guess my question to Mr. Carson would be is that the language would be the same, that we're going to abide by the legislative act, which still would allow CME or CMB to actually give special dividends if they felt it was natural food.
The previous language explicitly stated 30%.
Okay.
And so they didn't reference the language. And it will certainly be the demand of the bank that there be a limit to the dividends, because that affects our financial solvency, the ability to pay. And so obviously it's up to this body to say what that limit will be and for the bank to accept or deny that. But they will want a specific amount, a cap, if you will, where they can say, we understand the financials here, we understand who obligates what to whom, and that there is some limit to that, and that there is not unbridled discretion. Okay. Or at least, certainly everything is open. We can always talk to the bank as we go forward when we want to do things. But they want in the contract that, without going to them at least, we can't do these kind of things.
Right, and I guess the question I would have then would be is that I don't want us not to have an unforeseen ramification that throughout the last fiscal year we've had 30% dividends plus other special dividends that have been given. Do you foresee that may change, that we might be right at the 30% and there would be no other special dividends
I think it's the expectation of the bank right now that dividends stay as they currently are, whether that includes special dividends and these kinds of things. And we can certainly write that into the agreement to cover these kinds of things. They know the legislation that refers to 30%, and that has been in the previous documents, and it is in current drafts of the bank agreement. And that is something they will want. But they have a picture of where we stand financially, and they are satisfied with that. Indeed, our total borrowing capacity is probably $300 or $400 million, so much more above where we are. And these are certainly things we can broach with them to make sure that the needs of the people are adequately satisfied and that the bank agreement isn't restricting them. They don't want it. They're happy with where we stand, and they want to know what things can radically change the current financial picture. I don't think the things you're speaking of will do that.
Excuse me, Ms. Ketcher.
I just wanted to clarify. The legislative act sets the dividend at 30% and allows CNE or CNB to declare special dividends. We have not received special dividends. We have been receiving 30%, and I just want to make sure that no, we have not. No, and that's why I wanted to clarify it. We're not losing anything because we haven't been receiving special dividends.
Okay. But Mr. Hoskins.
Yeah. So, Mr. Carson, this council could certainly amend this resolution and somehow dictate that as a condition of this line of credit, that the bank understand that the dividend, for example, wouldn't exceed 35% as opposed to 30%. I mean, we certainly could take that action. Short of that, in the absence of that action, and I don't think this committee necessarily should step into the shoes and negotiate with the bank, but couldn't CNB approach the bank and ask them with their position on whether, if rather than it saying in black and white 30%, if it said 35%, which would give us some leeway if during the course of the life of this line of credit we decided to increase the dividend. I mean, would C&D be willing to just approach the bank with that offer and report back to us before the council meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. I think these questions of dividend policy is a policy decision for the council, and we take our direction from the council. And so really the only question for our angle is, will the bank accept or not accept that as one of the negotiating points? And I'd be happy to report back to you and the remainder of the council what they have to say before the tribal council meeting in a couple of weeks.
Okay. And then if I may, one follow-up. In light of what Ms. Ketcher has said, is the current line of credit agreement inconsistent with the legislative act concerning dividends? I mean, if the legislative act concerning dividends says 30%, but also provides for special dividends, but the line of credit makes no mention of special dividends, don't we have a conflicting authority out there for what the tribe can do? I would be concerned that we might want to resolve that in the new agreement.
It's a legal question to which I'll give you a tentative answer, and I'll give you a more definitive one when I have the lawyers look at the agreement. I do believe as currently drafted, it restricts tribal dividends to 30% with no discussion of special dividends. And so that is an issue that we can address and report back to you. I can give you a more definitive answer when I have the lawyers look at the documents and see their long 50 pages of covenants and see whether special dividends can be contemplated by it or not, and report back to you simultaneously with your previous question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Ketcher.
Just to answer your question, the way I view this, the legislative act sets a minimum percentage, and it authorizes the board of directors for the business entity to pay special dividends at their discretion. The board of directors, the council approved the borrowing documents, has said, okay, bank, we're going to agree to only go 30%. So that's the fine line between the two documents as I see it.
Thank you.
Mr. Thorne?
Brad, there's something I'd like to know, and it probably doesn't concern this situation, but I'd like to have every 6 months a report on cash on hand from whatever bank that C&D is using, and find out just how much funding they have on hand. If there's any way that we can do that. I know what it was 3 months ago, but I don't know what it is now.
I'll happily do that. I'll include that with the report that Ms. Jordan suggested that we develop, where every month I'll report to you the cash on hand, which will go in line with our borrowing needs. That has that, Mr. Thorne.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Jordan.
And Mr. Carson, I just want to make sure I have a good picture of our future goals. We're contemplating increasing our line of credit to $125 million. Of that, we have about $99 million that we project we'll use for our expansions, leaving us about a $25 to $26 million cushion. But at the same time, that will raise our asset base for C&E to probably $750 million.
Right.
Okay. And overall, at the end of this, our existing debt will probably be around $85 million. That's what we're projecting.
At the end of 2010, yes.
Okay. And at the end of 2010, if we, not talking about special dividends, which we hope we can get, but if we stayed at the 30%, we're projecting $52 million in dividend.
Right.
And FY10.
Right.
Okay. Is there any further questions or any further discussion? And all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Thanks, Mr. Carson. Next, we have item 5, which
This is, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution authorizing the submission of a funding application to the CDC. More of a timing issue than anything else. It's due October the 16th. And I know Lisa pivoted to discuss any discuss it and answer any questions, but I move for approval.
It has been. Is there any further discussion or any questions? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried. And there being no further new business, announcements?
I will get back.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. We tabled community assistance.
Yes, we did.
I think Meredith had something.
Ms. Bradley.
I just received an email this morning from the community in Strain. They have raised money to purchase Rescue 2 of Jaws of Life, I think it's called, and they're needing assistance to purchase a bed to carry these Jaws of Life in order to make it mobile. And they need $3,800, but I'm requesting $3,600 to apply toward this bed because I want $275 to go toward another project.
Okay.
Which would be?
And the 275?
36. Well, I have $3,875.
Yes.
And I want $3,600 to go toward to the City of Strain Fire Department.
Right.
And then $275 to go to another organization.
Yeah, what's that one? Locust Grove High School.
Okay, the other one is Locust Grove.
That's the one, okay.
High school.
She's going to fund that instead of
Okay.
forward funding, she's going backward funding.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Baker, have you heard from Mr. Crittenden?
No, I think maybe go to the
Yes.
He is with Roy and Gary Kendall's family, the ones that passed away. I barely got on the cell. He has 4918 left.
44,810.
44?
Yes.
44?
Yes.
And he would like to have Bell, Dry Creek, Bell, Dry Creek, and Greasy community organizations get 1,000 each. Stillwell Educational Foundation to get 1,000, and the balance to go to Fairfield Community Organization. And I think that clears them out.
So you got Bell, Dry Creek, and Greasy, 1,000.
Bill Dry Creek, Greasy, the Stillwell Educational Foundation.
1,000, and then the balance go to Fairfield. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion on community assistance?
Did you do your?
Yes. So,
Move for approval.
any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that concludes our business. On announcements, on October 13th at Fort Gibson, we passed around a sheet where the Cherokee certification ceremony will take place at Fort Gibson. We'll start at 11 o'clock and there will be a hog fry immediately after that. So, on October 13th, Saturday, at 11 a.m. Are there any other announcements? Did I?
Make motion adjourned.
Second. All fair to say aye.
Joe and I are having a dinner October 6th, it's Saturday, at Stoll State Park, it's 6 o'clock, and everybody's invited.
Okay.
And you'll give that to Shelley to
Yes.
Blackberry.
Okay. We're adjourned.
Jody, what was the date on that?
October 6th.
Okay.
Yep. I did beat her by 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
You did.
Meredith, he beat you.
I beat you by 5 minutes.
I came right out of ink. Can you feel it?
You did. Yeah, I saw that.